Hey everyone, this is Zach at FF Chalupa Batman. We're here on Triple Play Fantasy. We are doing another video for the 2021 Fantasy Football Season Review. We're talking Terry McLaurin today. We'll be doing this throughout all off season. Every week we'll do a new player. So if you like these videos, please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and in the comments, drop a player that you want me to talk about. Like I said, we're doing this every week, so we got a lot of time to talk about lots of players. We'd love to talk about someone that you want to hear about. So like I said, we're starting with Terry McLaurin today. All right. So McLaurin was the wide receiver 25 in PPR and wide receiver 30 in points per game, compared to players with at least 8 games played, and he played all 17 games. This was not the season people were expecting going into the 2021 season. So we see he had 130 targets, 77 receptions, 1,053 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So again, his stats were not spectacular this season, but they weren't terrible. He led the team with 24.3% target share, which is about 7.6 targets per game. That was 14th most for wide receivers in target share and 13th most for receivers in total targets. Honestly, I kind of expected those numbers to be larger with the wide receiver core he's a part of on the Washington team. As of recording this, I don't know what the Washington team name is going to be. By the time this video comes out, we should have a new name, so we're just going to call them the Washington team right now. If we look at his season overall by points, this is courtesy of RotoViz, we can see that he really struggled for you. If you played him, he had 4 wide receiver 1 weeks. So that was 24% of his games. He had 0 wide receiver 2 weeks, and then he had 12 weeks as a wide receiver 3 or worse. So 76% of his games, he probably hurt you if you started him. I mean, look at other than week 17 and 18 when he still was wide receiver 3 with those numbers, those were solid numbers, 13 points. And in PPR, that's nothing special. And when we're looking at his top weeks, looking at week 2, that was against the New York Giants. So he was a wide receiver 3 that week with 27.7 points. Week 4 against Atlanta, he was a wide receiver 4 with 30.3 points. Week 7, that was against Green Bay as a wide receiver 5 with 25.2 points. And then week 11, against Carolina, he was the wide receiver 10 with 21.3 points. So good luck picking out those weeks when to start them. Obviously, in those first few weeks, you're going to start them no matter what. So weeks 2 and 4, you probably started them for sure. Honestly, in week 7, going into those bye weeks, I'm pretty sure that was a bye-apocalypse week, you probably started him. But maybe by week 11, I don't know if you were trusting him. And you might not have a choice but to play him if you made the playoffs through the fantasy playoffs. He did not help you. So McLaurin was a bit of a struggle. Now, something to note is his quarterback situation. So we went into the preseason and going into the season expecting Ryan Fitzpatrick to be his quarterback. He's been a journeyman quarterback, but he throws the ball a lot. He can throw it deep. And we just thought that McLaurin was going to get peppered by targets. So in his 130 targets, only 85 of them were deemed catchable. That's 65.4%. That's not great. So maybe that impacted McLaurin, and we still believe he has a lot of talent, and maybe they just need a better quarterback. No offense to Taylor Heineke, but he just wasn't targeting McLaurin enough, and he just wasn't accurate enough on his deep passes, and that really hurt McLaurin's potential in fantasy football for us this season. So McLaurin is going into the final year of his 4-year rookie contract. Now, I expect the team to offer him an extension this offseason. That way he can't reach free agency in 2023 without the team getting anything back in return. But as of right now, we don't know where McLaurin will be playing in 2023, so that's something to keep in mind. Again, I expect him to be offered a contract extension this offseason in 2022, but as of this recording, we don't know that yet for sure. So like I said, a lot of talent from McLaurin, just kind of a down year. Everyone wants to blame the quarterback, probably fair, but how does that impact his Dynasty outlook? So let's talk Dynasty. So according to DLF, McLaurin was the wide receiver 11 going into 2021 season for his ADP. And then all season in 2021, he was the wide receiver 11 or wide receiver 12 until finally dropping to the wide receiver 13 in December. So his value really wasn't impacted by his poor play until we got to the end of the season in January. He finally finished as the wide receiver 17 now as we go into this 2022 Dynasty offseason. So I think most Dynasty managers are expecting McLaurin to play better as he has a better quarterback, and that's why we did not see his value dip. So it may be challenging to make any kind of acquisitions of McLaurin right now if you think that you could get into a dip, because I don't think you're really buying into a dip right now. I think his value has held honestly pretty high and maybe too high if we're kind of now worried that we have to depend on who his quarterback is. So he's currently 25 years old. He's going to turn 26 at the start of the 2022 season, and he's going into his fourth season, as I said before. So as soon as we know who that quarterback is going to be, as long as it's someone we deem as competent or average, I think McLaurin's going to jump back up to that late wide receiver 1, talking to like wide receiver 11, wide receiver 12, just like he started 2021. So maybe now is the lowest cost you can acquire him if you are trying to trade for McLaurin. So speaking of trading, let's look at some Dynasty trades that have been happening recently. So back at the beginning of January, there was a trade for Terry McLaurin, and you had to trade away the 2022 second-round pick and a 2022 third-round pick. So that seems like a great deal for McLaurin, and if you can get McLaurin for that deal, I would happily go acquire McLaurin right now. A little bit of a bigger trade at the end of December, Deebo Samuel and Chase Claypool for Mac Jones and Terry McLaurin and a 2023 second-round pick. So a lot more players involved there, but kind of gives you a sense of where McLaurin's being valued. There was a straight-up trade in the middle of December, Keenan Allen for Terry McLaurin. So that's where you're kind of trying to Keenan Allen's obviously been a better performer, has a lot more longevity, but he's getting a little bit older. So maybe you trade back a few years and get McLaurin and hope that he starts to produce at a higher level like Allen. And then another interesting one was earlier in December, Saquon Barkley for Terry McLaurin and a 2022 first. Honestly, unless you're really strapped for needing a running back, I like the Terry McLaurin side there, plus a first-round pick. And we don't really know what Barkley is going to be doing. He's not been performing well recently, being injured. So a lot to be desired there. And he's going to be on a future video for this series, so be on the lookout for him. So now that we're talking Dynasty still, in startup, he's got an ADP in 2021 around 31, so it's a mid third round pick. He's now about 34, a late third round pick. So that feels like the right spot for McLaurin. He has plenty of talent, but he has shown that he is not QB proof. So there is some cautious hesitancy if you don't believe the Washington team can stabilize their QB room. If you currently roster him, should always be listening to offers, but McLaurin will probably be undervalued by many managers in your league. And so until we know who the starting quarterback is going to be, you may have to sell him off, trade him off at a lower price than you're hoping for. So you probably want to hold on to him. And if he's not rostered, based on the trades I just went through, I would definitely be targeting McLaurin if you can get him undervalued right now. Hope he boosts his value once you know who the QB is. And if you really want to do a quick flip, you could probably quick flip him as well, or just hold on to him. He is young enough and is talented enough to hold value for at least a few more seasons. So definitely something to look at. To me, a late first round 22 pick isn't unreasonable to trade straight up. For McLaurin, I actually think that that's a great trade if you're getting McLaurin. And maybe that's what all it'll take based on these trades we just looked at. Now we're going to the Redraft Outlook. Again, it's very early in the offseason. We haven't even had the Super Bowl yet. So it's hard to really say what his ADP is going to be exactly, but most likely he's going to be probably going around the 3rd round, maybe even 4th round, depending on what information we have as we get into August. He's going to be drafted around several other wide receiver 2s with wide receiver 1 potential, and that's what he brings to you. So this season, he was a high-end wide receiver 3 technically, which is unfortunate, but he has the potential to be a wide receiver 1. So that's really what it's going to come down to is how much potential do you think he still has? Is he really talented enough? I believe he is, and it's just going to take a better quarterback in 2022 to really bring that out. So that's all we have for Terry McLaurin. Thank you for listening. Again, this is the Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel. Please go ahead and like this video, subscribe. We have a lot of great content coming out pretty much every day right now, and we're talking football, basketball, baseball. We cover it all. I would hate for you guys to miss any of that content, so go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you next week for the next video.